I didn't want to be a movie star, first of all. I just felt people in LA and movie industry, they were all messed up. I didn't want to be.
Goldie Hawn is not just a Hollywood star, she is one of the last faces of a generation of icons who could make an entire room burst into laughter with a single wink. And in the next moment, leave it haunted by roles steeped in sorrow. From the mischievous innocence of Cactus Flower to the fierce determination in Private Benjamin, she shattered the stereotype of the dumb blonde to become an independent symbol of American cinema. Her laughter once lit up television stages. Her presence once softened award ceremonies, and her resolve inspired countless actresses who followed. Goldie Hawn is not merely an artist. She is a symbol of freedom, of resilience, and of a woman daring enough to walk her own path, even when that road was riddled with prejudice. For more than half a century, she has stood firm between brilliance and shadow, turning both her smile and her pain into an art audiences could never forget. But at 79, the storm in her life has grown more brutal than ever. Fading health, fractured memory, and bitter truths no longer hidden. Let us retrace that dazzling yet turbulent journey to see why the tragedy of Goldie Hawn today cut so painfully deep. Goldie Jean Hawn was born on November 21, 1945 in Washington, D.C. into a family touched by both art and loss. Her father, Edward Rudolph Hawn, was a band musician and conductor of German-English descent, a descendant of Edward Rudolph, the youngest signer of the Declaration of Independence. Her mother, Laura Steinhoff, the daughter of Hungarian Jewish immigrants, ran a dance school. Goldie and her sister Patty grew up unaware that they once had an older brother, Edward Jr., who had died before Patty was born, a silence within the family that left a quiet mark on Goldie's soul. At just 3 years old, Goldie stepped into her mother's ballet and tap studio. By the age of 10, she was chosen to perform in the Nutcracker with the Ballet Russe de Monte Carlo. Her first real brush with the stage lights. At 19, she dropped her drama studies at American University to open and teach at her own ballet school, a decision that revealed both her independence and her willingness to carve her own path. In those years, surrounded by pirouettes and piano melodies, Goldie began to develop an instinct that resisted staying confined to any frame. She didn't just want to dance to the rhythm, she longed for a larger stage, one where every gaze would turn toward her, and soon enough, she would find it. In 1966, at 21, Goldie Hawn had just abandoned her college studies to pursue dance. With only $250 in savings, $200 of which she had already spent on a tiny poodle, she flew from the East Coast to California to perform at the Melodyland Theater across from Disneyland. On that desert crossing flight, she wrote in her diary that if anyone doubted the existence of God, they only needed to sit in her seat at that moment. The sky opened endlessly, the horizon stretched into nothingness, and the future lay uncertain ahead. Not long after, Hawn accepted an offer to dance in Las Vegas. That debut trip quickly turned into something like a movie itself. Her newly bought 1959 Chevrolet convertible broke down in the middle of the desert, leaving her with just $50 and her poodle. Stranded, she took a chance on a hitchhiker, a Green Beret just back from Vietnam. He drove her through dangerous stretches, giving her a strange sense of calm and safety. They shared one fleeting Sunday afternoon before he directed her to the desert in. It was the first, but not the last time. Goldie Hawn would transform an uncertain mishap into a story worth retelling. Her early work in California led to a role in the sitcom Good Morning World 1967 to 1968, where she began to be typecast as the dumb blonde, a cute but shallow caricature. But her real breakthrough came with Rowan and Martin's Laugh in 1968 to 1973. Hawn giggled midline, danced in bikinis, or with her body painted in psychedelic colors, and became a pop culture goddess of the 1960s. Her film debut followed with the one and only Genuine Original Family Band 1968, but it was Cactus Flower 1969 that made her a star, playing Walter Matthau's young fiancée. Hawn won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress for her very first major film role. The dumb blonde label clung to her. But Hawn was already considering how to take control of her own career. Within just a few years, with Steven Spielberg's The Sugarland Express, 1974, and Warren Beatty's Shampoo, 1975, Hawn was not only a bankable star, but also one of the very few women in Hollywood at the time to both produce and star in her own films. Works like Private Benjamin, 1980, and Wildcats, 1986, showed her willingness to step into arenas dominated by men, whether the military or football, and to change how audiences perceived female characters on screen. From a bar dancer in New Jersey, a young woman anxious enough to seek therapy when first touched by the spotlight, Goldie Hawn had transformed herself into a Hollywood emblem of power and freedom, living proof of the line she would often repeat later: "Don't tell me I can't, just watch me." While many actors spend years searching for a breakout role, Goldie Hawn needed only one chance, and she seized it with fearless boldness. In 1969, after a few years on television with Rowan and Martin's Laughing, she landed what seemed like a small supporting role in Cactus Flower. Few expected the character of Toni Simmons, a young woman both innocent and reckless enough to attempt suicide over love, to ignite such an explosion. Made for just about $3 million, the film grossed over $25.8 million in the US, ranking among the top 10 box office hits of the year. And when Oscar night arrived, Goldie Hawn's name was called for Best Supporting Actress on her very first major film appearance. The story behind the golden statue made the moment even more unforgettable. Goldie wasn't at the ceremony. She was in London filming There's a Girl in My Soup, and had even forgotten the Oscars were being broadcast. At 4 in the morning, a phone call woke her with the news. Her parents were the first to know. On stage, Raquel Welch accepted the statue on her behalf from Fred Astaire. A dazzling, utterly spontaneous debut, pure Goldie dot. By the 1970s, Hawn had become a fixture in Hollywood. Films like There's a Girl in My Soup, 1970, Butterflies Are Free, 1972, and Shampoo, 1975, showcased her trademark blend of innocence and mischief. The director of Butterflies Are Free recalled how Goldie often improvised her lines on set, making the crew roar with laughter, and no one dared cut for fear of losing that natural charm. The 1980s marked her golden era. Private Benjamin, 1980, was the turning point. Made for $9.2 million. It grossed nearly $69.8 million, becoming one of the year's biggest comedies. Goldie not only starred, but also produced, standing firm on the concept even as studios dismissed the idea. "No one will buy a ticket to see a women-led army comedy," they scoffed. When the original director quit, claiming the script contained anti-Semitic undertones, Goldie swiftly brought in Howard Z., a decision that turned a near disaster into a box office sensation and earned her Oscar and Golden Globe nominations for Best Actress. In 1982, Best Friends budgeted between $15 to $19 million, grossing $36.8 million, underscored her box office power. Director Norman Gisson was blunt: "If Goldie's in, I'll make the film." She later called it the most mature role of her career, blending experience with wit. Hits followed year after year: Swing Shift, 1984, Overboard, 1987, where she and Kurt Russell moved from co-stars to partners, spending long after hours talking on the beach, and Bird on a Wire. With Mel Gibson, her commercial peak arrived in 1996 with The First Wives Club, with a $26 million budget. It grossed $181 million worldwide, the biggest box office success of her career. Few know that the script was initially rejected by all three leading ladies as to anti-male. Goldie pushed for revisions, ensuring it balanced humor with emotional truth. Before filming, she, Diane Keaton, and Bette Midler even signed a rare pact: no one would steal screen time from the others. To date, films featuring Goldie Hawn have grossed over $2 billion at the domestic box office, adjusted for inflation. An extraordinary figure, proving she was never just a passing craze, but a durable star who transformed easily forgettable blonde roles into layered characters, leaving a lasting mark on American cinema. The heights of her career brought Goldie Hawn both dazzling fame and immense wealth, but along with them came invisible pressures only those within could truly feel. After the blinding lights of the stage and the endless tours, she returned to face personal choices that were sometimes controversial. It was at this intersection between glory and the everyday that her private life began to reveal stories at once intimate and dramatic. In her youth, the actress experienced a marriage that was both romantic and full of twists with Gus Traonis. They met in 1966 when Goldie was still unknown and Gus was already a familiar name in entertainment. He was India, a member of the Sharks gang in the 1961 film West Side Story, a dancer alongside Debbie Reynolds in the unsinkable Molly Brown 1964, and notably, one of the performers who danced with Elvis Presley during his legendary 1968 comeback special. Curiously, they shared the same birthday, November 21st, with their mutual love for dance, music, and the bohemian lifestyle of artists. They quickly became a couple. In 1969, just as Cactus Flower premiered and won Goldie her Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. They held a small wedding in Honolulu, Hawaii on May 16. Goldie was ascending to stardom, while Gus was stepping away from the stage and screen to pursue directing. But Hollywood's spotlight does not always align with domestic happiness. Gold's packed filming schedule and growing fame contrasted with Gus's struggles to rebuild his career, creating a widening gap between them. Goldie later told People, 1976, that at the time she felt exhausted and longed to go somewhere like an Indian to meditate. On April 9, 1973, they separated but did not immediately divorce, as neither of us wanted to remarry right away. Everything shifted in the summer of 1975 when Goldie happened to meet musician Bill Hudson on a flight, and sparks quickly flew. On New Year's Eve that same year, she both filed for divorce from Gus and became engaged to Bill, only to be met with Gus's demand for $75,000 under California's community property laws. Goldie admitted she was hurt because he never supported me a single day in my life. But in the end, the legal proceedings were finalized in June 1976, clearing the way for her to marry Bill just 1 month later. As for Gus, after the divorce, he went on to direct a number of action and exploitation films throughout the 1970s and 1980s, and later worked on episodes of Baywatch, Quantum Leap, and Beauty and the Beast. In 1978, he remarried costume designer Barbara Andrews, with whom he had a son, Nicholas, and they remained together until her death in 2012. On that fateful flight, Goldie Hawn met Bill Hudson, the handsome guitarist of the pop group the Hudson Brothers. At the time, she was still legally married to Gus Trionis, but according to Bill's memoir, Two Versions, The Other Side of Fame and Family, Goldie shockingly invited Gus along to their very first date. Hudson recalled that the evening fizzled, but their second outing took a far more surprising turn. At a Rolling Stones concert, a tray of white powder was passed around, and Bill claimed Goldie happily partook. That night ended with a 12-hour conversation in bed, where both confessed their love, even though on paper she was still another man's wife. Goldie has always denied any infidelity, dismissing Bill's claims as the words of a bitter Just months later, on New Year's Eve, 1975, Goldie both got engaged to Bill and filed for divorce from Gus on the very same day. Their wedding took place on July 3, 1976 in Tacoma Park, Maryland. Small and private, that same year, their first son, Oliver, was born September 7, 1976, followed by their daughter, Kate, April 19, 1979. In the beginning, their family embodied a free-spirited bohemian lifestyle. Yet behind the polished family portraits, cracks soon appeared. Goldie's career soared in Hollywood. While Bill struggled to maintain his footing in music, Goldie would later remark candidly, "Some men just can't handle it when their wives are more successful than they are," a pattern both her first two marriages shared. By 1980, Bill filed for divorce, which was finalized in 1982. Tensions escalated when he accused Goldie of wanting an open marriage and of deliberately keeping him away from their children after she met Kurt Russell. He alleged that she even suggested it would look better if the public believed he had abandoned his kids. The feud reignited decades later, in 2015, when Oliver posted an Instagram photo reading, "Happy Abandonment Day" on Father's Day. Bill fired back in the Daily Mail, declaring that Oliver and Kate were no longer my children and demanding they drop the Hudson name, a move that froze their already fragile bond. The marriage ended not only in separation but in bitterness, leaving behind a trail of accusations and estrangement that would shadow the family for decades. If Goldie Hawn's love life were a Hollywood script, the opening act of her romance with Kurt Russell would be the perfect foreshadowing. They first met in 1968, while filming the one and only genuine original family band. Goldie was 21, Kurt only 16, and to her, he was adorable, but too young. Both were in relationships at the time, so it ended with nothing more than polite professionalism. Goldie later told BBC Radio 4, "Both of us swore we'd never date another actor." And then, well, you see, never say never. It wasn't until 1983 that fate reconnected them on the set of Swing Shift. This time, both were single. Goldie was already an A-list star and the mother of 2 young children, while Kurt had matured after a string of notable roles. What won Goldie over wasn't any clever pickup line, but the way Kurt so naturally played with Oliver and Kate Hudson when they visited the set. He was amazing with the kids, just effortless. She told People their first date after 15 years apart was unlike any other. They had a few drinks, then decided on a whim to check out a new house. Without a key, they ended up fumbling their way inside, only to be caught by police in what was essentially a break-in. It was a beginning as funny and reckless as the love story that would stretch more than 4 decades. From co-stars to partners, their relationship grew slowly but firmly. They made a mutual decision never to marry, not out of lack of commitment, but out of respect for freedom and the choice to stay together each day. As Goldie explained in 2016, if you're independent, if you have enough money and love your freedom, not marrying gives you the feeling that you're together because you want to be, not because you're tied down. Their family became a blended mosaic. Goldie brought Oliver and Kate. Kurt had his son Boston Russell, and in 1986, they welcomed their son Wyatt Russell. Though not all bound by blood, the children were raised in an atmosphere of love, support, and laughter. Together, they built shared memories, both in life and on screen. In films like Overboard 1987 and Christmas Chronicles 201-82020, for over 40 years, Goldie and Kurt have stood as symbols of lasting love in Hollywood, a place where romances often collapse under the spotlight. Valentine's Day 1983 remains their chosen wedding day. As Goldie once put it, that is true romance. Every morning I choose him and he chooses me. If Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell's love story is the longest and most beautiful script of their lives, then their children are its brightest sequel, each with a distinct personality and path, yet all carry the legacy of a family bound by love, laughter, and resilience through every storm. The first to take the stage was Oliver Hudson. Born September 7, 1976, a familiar face on television with roles in Rules of Engagement, Nashville, and The Cleaning Lady. Oliver is also the family's #1 comedian. Kate once quipped, "He's even funnier than I am." Off-screen, Oliver co-hosts the podcast Sibling Revelry with Kate, where family stories are told with such candor they sometimes leave listeners blushing. In his personal life, Oliver and his wife, actress Erin Bartlett, are parents to 3 children: Wilder Brooks, Bodie Hawn, and little Ria Laura, his favorite pastime. Embarrassing the kids whenever possible, he once joked on The Ellen Show, "To Goldie, Oliver is not just a wonderful father, but also the gift that keeps their household filled with laughter." Next is Kate Hudson, born April 19, 1979, a movie star with a smile inherited straight from her mother. Her role as Penny Lane in Almost Famous earned her a Golden Globe and an Oscar nomination, paving the way for hits like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, Bride Wars, and Something Borrowed. Yet behind the spotlight, Kate has always held deep respect for Goldie and Kurt. On Kurt's 70th birthday, she paid tribute to the courage and confidence he instilled in her as a mother of 3. Each child with a different father, Kate follows a principle Goldie instilled: never speak badly of your child's father. A seemingly simple rule, but one that provides the foundation of security and love in parenting. Boston Russell, born February 16, 1980, is Kurt's son with seasoned Hubley and the quietest piece of the puzzle. Choosing a life away from Hollywood's glare, Boston rarely appears in the media, yet he remains a steadfast presence in the family. Kate still remembers the first time she met Boston as a child. The moment she realized Kurt would be a pivotal man in her life, and Boston would become an irreplaceable new brother. The youngest, Wyatt Russell, born July 10, 1986, is Goldie and Kurt's son and a natural heir to the family craft. From 22 Jump Street to his breakout as John Walker in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Wyatt has carved his own place in the industry and will soon appear. alongside Kurt in Apple TV's Monsterverse series. Beyond acting, Wyatt is a devoted father to 2 boys, Buddy 2021 and Boone Joseph 2024. He often admires Kurt's role as a grandfather. He teaches the kids lessons I still need to learn myself. Goldie once said, "Parenting is raising your children so that they know how to raise theirs well." A domino effect of responsibility and love. In the Russell Horn household, Oliver brings the laughter, Kate holds the warmth, Boston embodies silent loyalty, and Wyatt carries dedication to the next generation. They may be Hollywood stars, but when the door closes, they are simply a family where love and respect always play the leading roles. For Goldie Hawn, family has always been her safe haven, the place she finds laughter, love, and unbreakable bonds no matter the storms outside. But Hollywood was never as peaceful as the Russell Horn home. Behind the spotlight, she also endured encounters with people and stories that weighed heavily on her heart, though she spent much of her career maintaining a gracious image and avoiding public disputes. Goldie has never denied that some colleagues made her working life miserable through disrespect, power games, or subtle sabotage. She finally revealed 6 names she despises most. Not to retaliate, but to tell a piece of the truth about her long, grueling journey in an unforgiving industry. Kirk Douglas. In the public eye, Kirk Douglas was a screen legend, a symbol of strength and old-school charm. But in Goldie Hawn's personal experience, that aura concealed an unpleasant arrogance. Even after her Oscar win, Kirk still treated her more like decoration than an equal colleague. He often exaggerated his gentlemanly gestures, cut her off mid-speech, and dismissed her creative input during joint projects. The breaking point came during a film development meeting. While Goldie was presenting, Kirk suddenly interrupted with a belittling joke that left the room uneasy. She closed her notebook, stood up, and walked out, never to return. From then on, their relationship remained strictly superficial. Goldie would later praise his son Michael Douglas, but carefully avoided mentioning Kirk's name. For her, it was a clear reminder. Never let anyone box you into an outdated image just to satisfy their gaze. Warren Beatty. At the peak of his power, Warren Beatty was not only an A-list star, but also a legend of charm and notorious affairs. With immense influence in Hollywood at the time, he repeatedly pursued Goldie Hawn with sweet compliments, overly intimate gestures backstage, and carefully staged private invitations. Goldie, perceptive enough, saw through the allure to the power play beneath and politely declined every advance. But rejection shifted Beatty's tone from warm to cold, and he quietly spread rumors that Goldie was difficult and miscast. A few film opportunities slipped away as a result. She never struck back publicly, instead holding firm to her principle. "I don't mix work with power games." Years later, when they crossed paths at a major event, Goldie simply gave him a cold smile and walked past without turning back. A statement in itself that some doors are meant to close so you can step into better ones. Chevy Chase. On screen, Goldie Hawn and Chevy Chase delivered a beloved romantic comedy duo, turning Foul Play into a 1978 box office hit, but behind the camera, the atmosphere was starkly different. Chevy often ignored the script to improvise on his own, pressured the director into compliance, and showed disdain toward the crew, especially lighting, makeup, and assistants. For Goldie, the situation was worse. He frequently cut into her lines during takes, made mocking remarks, and persistently pushed for scene changes that made his character shine more than hers, though she remained professional and completed the film. Her disappointment was clear. When Foul Play became a massive success and audiences hoped for a reunion, Goldie flatly refused every offer to work with Chevy again. From that moment on, their relationship was frozen, left behind with the film itself. Bill Murray. At first, the idea of Goldie Hawn teaming up with Bill Murray in a comedy project seemed like a gift for audiences, the pairing of 2 of Hollywood's sharpest wits. But the dream unraveled as early as the first table read. Murray showed up more than an hour late, sauntering in with a careless attitude, mocking colleagues, and openly dismissing the script. When Goldie performed a deeply emotional scene, Murray sneered, "Why don't you try acting like you've ever done drama before?" A remark both belittling and dismissive of her craft. Without a moment's hesitation, Goldie shut her script, stood up, and walked out. The next day, she formally withdrew from the project. From that moment, she set a new rule for choosing roles. She would prioritize peace and respect on set over any golden opportunity to work with so-called chaos agents, those who thrive only on creating disorder. Sean Penn. It was at a mental health fundraising gala, an issue to which Goldie Hawn had dedicated years of passion and advocacy. As she took the stage, the room fell silent, except for Chopin. Sitting at a VIP table, he rolled his eyes, sighed audibly, and when Goldie finished her speech, he muttered, "She should just stick to giggling." Goldie didn't lash out, she simply smiled, raised her glass to the audience, and quietly left the event. But from that day on, she drew a clear line: no public contact, no professional collaboration with Penn. For her, this wasn't just personal insult. It was a direct affront to the message and values she had worked tirelessly to uphold, that women have the right to be taken seriously, not confined to the image others impose on them. Dustin Hoffman. That audition was a pivotal moment for Goldie Hawn, one rare chance to break free from Hollywood's box of tip, casting her as a charming comedian never trusted with drama. She delivered her lines with care, eager to prove her range, when suddenly Dustin Hoffman, seated in the front row, interrupted in front of producers and the entire team. He coolly remarked, "You're still acting like a sitcom." The room let out an awkward laugh, while Goldie, maintaining professionalism, finished the scene out the next morning. However, she sent her thanks and formally withdrew from the project. Her reason was clear: "I will not fight to be respected by people who have already decided I'm a joke." For Goldie, that moment was a sharp reminder never to let others define her worth, especially those who judge her through a narrow lens from the very first glance. Looking back at the six figures she chose to stay away from, a striking pattern emerges. All were powerful men in Hollywood, yet each displayed condescension, manipulation, or quiet sabotage. In every case, Goldie never chose noise or public confrontation. Instead, she stepped back, preserved herself, and safeguarded both her career and her dignity. For her, steadfastness, self-respect, and calm are sometimes the most powerful answers, because they leave the offender unable to touch you, either in spirit or reputation. Goldie needed no proof beyond her continued success and enduring love from audiences. If you were in her place, would you walk away in silence as Goldie did, or stand up and confront publicly? Despite the many professional clashes she endured, Goldie Hawn has preserved an image of elegance and humor that even her critics have had to admire. At the same time, she leaves behind a radiant acting legacy, a rare ability to blend comedy with emotional depth, creating characters that were not only charming, but also resilient and layered. From her Oscar-winning turn in Cactus Flower to box office hits like Private Benjamin, Overboard, and The First Wives Club, she became a model of natural, energetic performance, breaking free from Hollywood's limiting dumb blonde archetype. H's influence extends far beyond the screen. It lies in her choices, living and working by her own principles, daring to reject toxic projects, sustaining a 4-decade love with Kurt Russell without the need for marriage papers, and raising a successful, multi-generational family. She has inspired later generations of actresses to claim autonomy, to endure, and to reinvent themselves in order to survive within a brutal industry. After more than half a century of winning audiences with her radiant smile and charming comedic style, Goldie Hawn, at 79, still carries a special magnetism whenever she appears, and at the 2025 Academy Awards, she once again became the center of attention. But this time, the public gaze held more concern than pure admiration. That evening, Goldie walked the Dolby Theater red carpet hand in hand with her longtime partner, Kurt Russell, the golden couple of Hollywood still glowing with warmth on stage as she joined Andrew Garfield to present Best Animated Short and Best Animated Feature Film. The atmosphere softened when Garfield shared how she had once brought joy to his late mother. Goldie replied with a muddled, lightly humorous remark about being lucky to make movies, drawing a gentle laugh, though her words were not entirely clear. Then came the moment of surprise. As she prepared to read from the teleprompter, she gently took Garfield's hand and said, "Sweetheart, could you read that?" "I can't read it. I'm completely blind." Cataracts, the candid confession prompted both laughter and murmurs. Still, she calmly opened the envelope and announced the Best Animated Feature winner. Flo, with perfect accuracy, proving her stage instincts remained intact. On social media, reactions were mixed. Some believed it was merely a vision issue, others worried about her health. While a few speculated about medication or alcohol, one somber comment read, "It's sad to see Goldie like this. Age eventually reaches us all." From backstage, AP reported that, in rehearsal, Goldie had been fine, save for a small slip that made the room laugh. She and Garfield had worked smoothly together. Chatting and joking, many suggested that the blinding lights and booming sound of the ceremony may have unsettled her, especially after years of keeping away from the spotlight. Indeed, for more than 2 decades, Goldie's public appearances have been rare. After her golden era of the 1970s to 1990s, with dozens of hit rom-coms, she acted only in Town and Country 2001 and The Banger Sisters 2002, then stepped away for 15 years before returning in Snatched 2017 alongside Amy Schumer. More recently, audiences have seen her as Mrs. Claus in The Christmas Chronicles 1 and 2, Netflix with Kurt Russell, or heard her voice in Phineas and Ferb and the documentary SPF 8. The last time she presented at the Oscars was 2014, and the last time she co-hosted an award show was the 2018 SAG Awards with her daughter Kate Hudson, the 2025 Oscars. Then were more than just a celebration of cinema. They were a rare chance for audiences to witness Hollywood's comedic icon back on a grand stage, and to realize that after everything, Goldie Hawn is still herself, sincere, witty, and unafraid to reveal even her most vulnerable moments. Goldie Hawn's life is living proof that behind laughter, there are always silences from a little girl. Stepping out of her mother's ballet studio, she became a cinematic icon, an Oscar winner, and the star of performances etched into the memories of generations. But her journey was never only glory. It was also broken marriages, moments of belittlement in a prejudiced industry, and later years when health, memory, and even her stage confidence were tested. At 79, Goldie Hawn may no longer grace the screen as often, but she remains vivid in the audience's memory as a symbol of freedom, wit, and endurance. Time may have left its mark on her voice and her eyes, but that smile, that spirit, has never disappeared. Her story is also a reminder of the fragility of those who once seemed invincible under Hollywood's lights. And perhaps it is that very fragility that makes her feel closer, more real, and more cherished in the public's eyes. If there's a film, a line, or simply a smile from Goldie Hawn that you can never forget, share it in the comments below. Because in the end, what keeps a legend alive isn't only awards or box office numbers. It's the moment she made us laugh, cry, or feel understood in a storm-filled life. And if you'd like to keep journeying with us through the real stories behind Hollywood's bright lights, don't forget to hit subscribe so we can meet again in the stories still to come.